sessions about the Cultural Revolution and the things that she went through and what her family went through. Definitely had our room in a bit of tears through some of the struggles that she went through and how brave she is. I could probably speak a whole session on her.
What was the name of that school?
That was the women. I can give you the exact name in Chinese because it'll be a little bit easier to find for you. But it was for women, rural women educators. And you kind of see these were some of the walls on the chalkboard.
So she spoke to you in English?
She spoke in English. She was very fluent. She's actually won several global awards. She is someone who's recognized around the world as being. So, and then also we did have a couple of cultural. This was our only arts lecture the whole time I was there. Only kind of art themed. So we did kind of have to do a little bit of drama. We did some Beijing opera, did some moves, feeding the chickens and kind of scooting them along. So we kind of did our little session with that. The same professor also guided us through some calligraphy. And this was in the school where we were, and I thought just some of the beautiful architecture. This is the Marco Polo Bridge. I thought this was really interesting because you can actually see where the horses and the carts had worn away some of the bricks. So it was really beautiful to kind of just see the history right there. This was the Ministry of Education, so that's that great table I mentioned earlier. I am actually right across from them. Yay! Got the center seat, the hot seat. But it was really fun to get to see and hear them talk about education in China and really how it's very different from our educational system and some of the challenges. And I definitely heard about the Gaokao test and some of the things that they had to deal with, and some of the students that I met that were studying very studiously for those tests. So it was really interesting to kind of get a perspective on the educational system in China, how it's different from the United States, some of the things that they want to incorporate into their education. And one of the things that was really mentioned is how important it is for them to teach their students about cultural appreciation and to really start pushing some of these older art forms, which I think is important. So you need to teach your culture and make sure that that is continued. So that was really interesting to kind of see that. And I actually did get the opportunity to see that in action when I got to go into an art classroom and see them teaching traditional calligraphy. So it was really interesting. So the next stop along the way was to Xi'an. In Xi'an, we went to see the Terracotta Warriors, the Great Mosque. We went to a Neolithic village, to a Tibetan monastery, which I was very fortunate that we got to go into. That was an area that we were very lucky that one of our guides actually worships there, so he was able to allow us to go in. And then the city wall, which was one of my favorite spots. So Xi'an. So this was at night. We arrived pretty late in the day. This is the great Goose Pagoda. The very next day we did get to go see the Terracotta Warriors. I think many of you might be familiar with those. We had a little bit of fun. We actually stopped at a little location, very touristy, but it was fun nonetheless. You could see the kilns where the life-size Terracotta Warriors could be fired. And I actually got to peek in. They had some life-size sculptures in the kiln area. So you can kind of see them there.
That exhibit is right now in Chicago at the Museum.
Right. I thought that was great timing for great timing. So you can kind of see a little bit. It's dark, but you can see a little bit of the figures there. And they create the little miniature versions for tourist purposes, of course. But I thought it was interesting the clay that they use actually has a high, I believe, iron base, so when it's fired, it's black. So it was naturally black. So that's some of the ones. They used a mold, and we watched them in the process of making them, which was really interesting to see the artisans who were there working with the clay, and they would show you the different stages of the building and the different processes. My students really enjoyed seeing some of these pictures. I tried to take quite a few different pictures and little video clips so you can kind of see the process of it. But it was really interesting to see also the painting and the decoration. And you can see the quantity behind her, so. So here are the terracotta warriors. Walking into this space, it was really, really hot in the summer. It's really hot. It's 116 degrees on the day that we were there, and it was very, very warm. So that was an interesting spot. Oh, I went back. But it's an enormous space, and I think I've seen it so many times online. I've seen it in videos. I've seen little discussions of it. But to be in the space and realize the massive area that it takes over is somewhat overwhelming. So it was quite beautiful and moving to be able to see this and to be able to see the individual faces and to kind of zoom in and really take it all in. So it was really beautiful. And you can kind of see a little bit here. You can see the horses and the faces lined up. There was one section that they actually talked about how they had uncovered some of the warriors that are very covered in a lot of different color and paint. It's very original, the paint. They actually buried them back up to try to prevent any deterioration. So they had a couple sections where they had uncovered, they had documented, and then they covered them back up. So that was really interesting to get to talk to them a little bit about that. This was the temple that we went to, and I'm going to show you a little bit more from that. I was also fascinated with the, yes?
I just wondered why were they built?
And it was for an emperor, so he was it was all of his entertainment. And it was really interesting too, they said there wasn't a single female in the whole facility, in all of that burial. There wasn't a woman, but there were animals, there were horses, there were birds, there were different things, but it was to be his burial. And there's a whole area that they're still uncovering. There was a kind of a mound tomb that they had not uncovered. They haven't researched into that part yet that they were talking about that was not too far from this area. So I know there's a lot of research still yet to be done.
So it was like a funerary place.
And the temple for me was really touching. We were welcomed in. So it was a closed-in area. This is not somewhere you can go as a tourist. These were the prayers. They could walk around and do those as they did their prayers, and kind of just see a little glimpse of these into the temple. And this is our crew. We were welcomed. We got to meet and go into actually some upper areas of the temple where they have a lot of their collections that very rarely do they let be seen by the public. So they had ancient books and scrolls and kind of different pieces that were pieces of art that were in an upstairs room that we were able to have access to. So it was really kind of beautiful to take all of that in and have that opportunity. We were given the yellow scarves, and that was apparently a form of high respect. So I noticed that everyone who was there started kind of taking pictures of us. So it was kind of fun and interesting to kind of learn and see a little bit about that. And they were very giving. They gave us all little takeaway gifts and beads and gave us blessings. Again, just some of the architecture. The Goose Pagoda. And the city wall. The city wall was our last day in Xi'an. I really love Xi'an. It's a smaller city, but it had such great personality, and everyone was so friendly. The city wall, you can see it was a little bit of a kind of a gray morning, but we got to take a bike ride. I loved taking the bike ride on the city wall. Oops, there's a little arrow right on my nose. Move that away. But if you look right here, this was actually a librarian who teaches here in Chicago, and he was along on the journey. He's kind of photobombing me back there, but we had such a great time really seeing this. And this was his hometown, so he had not been back for 20 years. So he was really having a great time getting to visit his home. And I really loved taking the tour of the city wall because I could kind of look down and see little glimpses of the city and the market and the different things that were going on from a different perspective. And I thought it was really interesting just to watch everybody as they were shopping and they were going about their day and the kids were running. It was just kind of beautiful to hear those sounds from below. city wall, they actually have a little museum. So we took a bike ride and we could go down from the city wall, and there was actually a little art exhibit that was there. They had a whole series of the horses that were kind of in that area, and they're quite beautiful. So I took some pictures of some of those sculptures, and if there's anything that you're interested in seeing more of, like I said, I took about 10,000 pictures, so definitely wasn't going to be able to fit them all in. And I do have this Prezi online too, so if you'd like to see that as well, see it again. But I'd be glad to share any more. So after we left Xi'an, we went to Chongqing. Chongqing was actually the capital during the war. It's a mountainous area, so it's a little bit safer from the water edge. It's a more mountainous area. In Chongqing, we got to see some lectures about the Gaotou. We went to the Three Gorges Museum. We went to the Wartime Culture and Stillwell Museum. We went to a Buddhist temple, a lotus garden, and we ate at the Lotus Garden restaurant. And I did not know you could eat lotus in so many different delicious ways. So every meal, every part of the meal was lotus. And we went to the Tonlang district, and we got to see a beautiful dance, a dragon dance performed by students. So Chongqing was a really interesting part of my journey. I'll check my time a little bit here. So Chongqing was a part of my journey where things went very fast for me. Traveling, we'd been in China for about 3 weeks, so it was becoming kind of interesting. We're going from 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 9 or 10 o'clock at night. You're seeing lectures. It's very fast-paced. You're walking quite a bit. It's still very, very, very hot. You're eating these gigantic meals. You might see where this is going. I got sick. Unfortunately, I got MSG poisoning. So I was actually sick for 2 days when I was in Chongqing. But the Chongqing people were beautiful, and they were so welcoming and nice, and they really did take care of me. So that was one thing too. If you do get sick, and we had a few folks who were along the way who, what we said, they got the emperor's revenge because they may have had a little bit too much of the water or something else. So there were those moments that happen. There are going to be people that will help you and take care of you. So when you're along the journey, when it's such a long time, things do happen. So you will have people that would support you and help you if you get sick, which I was very lucky. I couldn't have asked for a better place to get sick in. So, so Chongqing was a really wonderful place. It's kind of a moment there, and you can see I've actually got a lot of pictures from it. So it was a beautiful city. It's one that I would love to go back. I know I was actually talking to one of our participants here, and she was talking about, is it your, who went there? My sister. Your sister. Sister went to the Chengdu, right? And Chengdu and Chongqing are kind of sister cities, but they are very competitive. So everybody in Chongqing was like, no, you don't want to go to Chengdu. Stay in Chongqing. No. We're better. So, but it was really fun. I love Chongqing. Beautiful city, right on the rivers, beautiful bridges, huge vistas. And that was a hotel where apparently in previous Fullbright-Hayes seminars they've actually stayed, but we did not stay in that particular location. So. I love Chongqing too because there was a whole market that was really dedicated to getting the calligraphy brushes and to getting the inks and the papers. So I went crazy. I did purchase quite a bit of paper, some actually paper that's in the form of the fans that my students could actually make fans. So I actually brought paper back for my students, and we made fans, and I'll show you those. But that was, I was a kid in a candy store in that city. And here we are at the Stillwell Museum. Lotus. Kind of give you a glimpse. The dragon dance, we actually went to a high school and the students performed the entire dragon dance for us, and they were so welcoming and so beautiful, and we really appreciated all of the performance that they did because they were actually on break. So they actually came in from their holiday and helped present for us. These are the sculptures, and you can see the carvings, the rock carvings. This is actually a World Heritage Site. It's really interesting to see all the different teachings, Confucius teachings, Buddhist teachings on the walls. Quite huge and enormous when you think about it. And would take up probably the majority of this ceiling space to kind of see them going all the way up. Really beautiful color on a lot of the different rock And you can kind of see all of the different ones, and it actually curves right up the cliff face. It was somewhat difficult to photograph because you're walking along a little path to be able to get a good angle to photograph, but it was really interesting to kind of see the stories. We had a guide that told us and kind of read the stories as we went along, so it was really interesting to see that. And we also got to visit an older city. We went to a tea house. We had a performance with the changing of the masks very quickly with her dance, which was beautiful, and got to eat. A lot of eating involved in your trip. So if you get to go, you don't starve. You definitely are treated to plenty of opportunities to eat and join and spend time together and talking to other educators. So it's really wonderful. This was the little city where we stay, and you can kind of see my friend there with the students. Then we took off to Shanghai. In Shanghai, we went to the Children's Palace, which is all supporting the arts. It's a beautiful building. It has beautiful orchestra rooms, art rooms, theater rooms. I saw students who were doing their practices with different instruments, with private tutors. And so it was a complete arts integration kind of school. We got to spend a few hours there and talk to the head of their educational program and kind of see how the students are using this space to really encourage the arts. I went to the Shanghai Museum, talked a little bit about the Communist Party. We went on a Jewish tour. I did not know that apparently in Shanghai, many of the Jews actually came to Shanghai for respite. So a little glimpse into Shanghai. Huge city, but I really felt at home there. They speak a lot of English, so it's a very cultural city that has a lot of trade, but it was very easy to kind of get around and maneuver. We took a night boat tour, so we were able to kind of go along the city and see the lights and the beautiful scenery and skyline. We also had a home visit while we were there. This was the father that got to talk to us, and he was very excited that he had 2 American teachers coming to his home, because he wanted his son to practice his English. He wanted his son to be able to come to America and to go to Stanford. He wanted his son to really start talking more in English and to really start working on that communication. So it was really sort of, we were going to be practicing English with their son. So he was very excited to have us. His son took us to the zoo, and I got to see a panda. So that was wonderful. They were all excited because he was actually awake. We went on the Jewish tour and really kind of got to hear, this gentleman actually made a whole documentary about the Jewish tour. There we are. And the last stop along the way was Hong Kong, which was a British colony. So you can kind of see a little bit of that when I was there. I got to speak to the head of the Hong Kong News Executives Association. He had just been attacked in the last year by a huge machete and was really fortunate to be able to walk. Why was he attacked? Probably for telling the truth and for speaking. So there was a huge issue in Hong Kong with the challenge of that in kind of the media scene and how they were balancing with coming from being a British colony to now being part of China again, and how there's a mix of 2 different cultures that are merging together. I did get to go to a high court and sit in, meet a judge, see the white wigs all on their heads. It was an amazing experience to get to sit in on that. It was a murder trial, so that was also interesting to hear a bit of, and then kind of see and hear a little bit about the youth issues and a lot of the riots and things that are going on in the city to really kind of challenge some of the things that the government is doing. So I ask you kind of as I close to really think globally. I've got my information here, but just in close, it's really important that we kind of connect with families. In my district, we try to do home visits as often as we can, and it's important to meet the kids where they come from and understand a little bit more about them. To share a meal, to share some time, to talk to the parents and get to know them, and I got that opportunity when I was there. She's actually an English teacher there in China. I got to make dumplings, and apparently quite skilled at dumplings. I think my art background